welcome to the designer meetup today. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. I'd like to welcome you to this great conversation that we're going to have about how to design for digital embellishments and really share some of the cool things and tips and tricks that we've been figuring out together and try to augment everybody's I guess, skill levels around it. I would like to give a particular thank you to MGI for sponsoring the JETforce. So thank you to MGI for sponsoring this outreach to the designer community. We really appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our host today. Our host is how many gold leaf awards have you won? Have you lost count, sir?
I've actually lost count. There's more on the way. You need to mail mine for this year, and then we were just talking a couple of weeks ago in the lobby. We have them all stacked on shelves, and we need to do something different because we've run out of need somewhere to put the new awards. We haven't figured out what to do yet.
So let's just call him an award-winning designer for digital embellishment, also a jet varnish 3ds operator working out of Southern Florida, Matt Redbear. So Matt, thanks again for agreeing to host this, and this discussion around embellishment design. We're really looking forward to today's session.
So that's me, I guess, and I'm coming to you from sunny Fort Lauderdale.
Nice.
And yeah, it's really nice this time of year. Give it time, it'll turn into hell. But Kevin pretty much just went over the purpose of the meeting, to expand our knowledge of the design aspects of the embellishment process. This has been an ongoing issue for a lot of designers that came to our attention a couple of years ago at the very first Amplify event up in and it was so obvious, because people just were just covered with question marks whenever they were talking about it. So it's just been our mission ever since then to try and extend whatever knowledge we have out there, to share that knowledge, to have these group meetings. It's not just about me. It's not just about Kevin. It's about you. It's about you, your design, your operators, the way that you connect with your team, your sales team, your estimating team, your marketing team, other designers, the operators of the equipment, and the manufacturers and service people of that equipment. It's all one big ball of yarn. And as far as I'm concerned, if you haven't explored all of those pieces, then you're missing out. It's really hard when you're doing design. For example, when I was in pre-press, which is the pit of fire in the design world, every pre-press department is like an initiation, right? And I took on that task late in life because I avoided it with a passion. Has anyone else here done pre-press, gone through that little nightmare of life? You learn a lot. So it's like trying to design for a press and you don't know how the press works.
Right.
You really run out of options. The more you know, the more you interface with the machine, the operator of the machine, the technology that drives the machine, the technology that drives the whole process, the better a designer you're going to be. There's just no other way around it. Yeah. So being the fact that I also run a machine, I design for the machine. I work with the team that takes the jobs in for the machine. That puts me in a unique position that I wouldn't trade for anything right now.
And I think we should ask the members who are here is how many of you guys actually spend time to get on training on the machine, like from the NAPCO people? And I know, Mark, you work with a lot of different users too. Do you guys have any machine time to understand how the designs really translate, or do you just, is it hit or miss?
I mean, I feel like I can definitely hear we're always trying to tweak it slightly so that it works better from like pulling it from Illustrator over to the MGI.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out currently right now why one computer doing Illustrator sends it over perfectly fine when another Illustrator sends it over 3 pixels off.
What?
Yeah.
Especially registration on the KM1, it's the same thing. The registration is being sent over and it's supposed to be dead on, but it's not.
It's like 3 millimeters off every time. And it's fine when it comes off Nolan's computer, so we're trying to figure out That program.
Does he have a newer computer? Is that what it is?
Right, I don't know.
That's interesting. I'd never heard of that. That's really interesting. So that's a great point.
We do the pretest
That's a great
literally
point.
for like every job. Some either I do it, Tracy does it, or our other graphic designer does it. So
Yeah,
for every
that-
single one.
interesting. How about you, Mark? On your side, you spend a lot of time with people who are designing for embellishments. Do you feel that those designers have press time, like Matt was saying, or are they kind of shooting from the hip?
No, they're shooting from the hip, and that's the majority of the world. You know, the one thing printers do, they buy the press, but they forget to produce samples to educate and show the designers what's possible. I know Matt does a great job of that, and I speak highly for you, Matt, even though you're from Southern Illinois and I'm from Midwest Illinois. But, you know, that's the problem in our industry, is people like you on this call, creatives. That's why I listen. I like to listen to what happens in the real world.
Right.
I was just on a call today with somebody in the UK, and I couldn't believe they've been working on a book for 2 years. A self-promotion book for 2 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, Matt. So I guess the struggle is real, as you were saying.
It is definitely real. I want to point out that if you haven't opened your chat window, you can click, there's a bar across the bottom of your screen. You might have to mouse down for that to pop up. Click on chat. It opens up a chat window on my right. I don't know how it's going to open on your screen. I've posted a bunch of links there. So feel free to copy and paste that, maybe paste it into a Word document, into your note, something that you can access later. First on the list is about me. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about me. You can go read about me if you want to. From our last meeting, we had a really good meeting last time.
We did.
It was very structured. It was a series of slides. It just was kind of like embellishment 101, just a complete, you know, overview from 30,000 feet with a few little details thrown in. You know, can't give it all away in one session. We had limited time as well. So from that last meeting, there was a PDF. What Mark just mentioned was what's possible. A lot of people just don't know what's possible. And one thing that I wanted to add, if I could find it here, one thing that I wanted to add to that PDF, which you can just view or you can download it. Oh, wow, did I not bring that? I don't think I brought it. I brought it just for Luis. Anyway, I do not have, oh, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, I do. I don't know if this shows up. This was a weird technique that we use because people just put like tons of varnish on everything. And the only time I ever put tons of varnish on anything is never on the white. So everything is knocked out on the type. So this is one photograph that I wish I had included in that PDF. I just couldn't find the piece at the time.
Right.
So it made for an interesting piece, and this is for LaCroix. So it has that playful, it's just varnish. It has that playful kind of effect to it. And so to maintain it, this is a sales piece that the distributors use to access all the UPC codes.
Interesting.
So it's really not a piece that they give out to the public unless they just happen to need the series of UPC codes. But that is varnish on just the raspberry color and not on the white type. So it was technically knocked out. And that was an interesting registration. I wouldn't call it a nightmare because MGI makes that really easy. You just might need to shift it slightly, but otherwise it'll just drop right on where you need it to go.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was what I wish I had added to that PDF that you can download here. I've also included a link to our Tactiful YouTube channel, which has a lot more of videos, tips and tricks. The next link is for the Red Bear project in that channel, which includes these talks that we're having right now. So that last meeting that we had a month ago, the designer meetup for March, is on there, and that's just me talking. So, but it will give you a good idea of what the whole presentation was about if you want to go through that video. And then if you want to know more about our sponsor, MGI, there's a a link to their website. This is the English. They also have multiple languages, but if once you get in there, you want to go to the French, Spanish version, whatever, feel free to do so. And then of course my email. And the reason I give you my email is because I'm always accessible to you. I am curious to know what we should be talking about in these meetings. I am curious to know about your concerns with some of the equipment. And I also want to just point out that this isn't the only meeting that we host, because on the JETforce.com, this is hosted on that site as well, which is the MGI site for JetVarnish users. There is another meetup for operators. Now, the operator meetup is only available on JETforce.com because it's specific to the machine, the operation of the physical machine itself. So we go over different technical. I don't always host that meeting. It's usually Ken's thing. If Ken can't host it, I will. But in those meetings, if you're an operator, it helps if you're a designer. To join that meeting, it's about once a month. It's different from this one, but we cover topics like technical issues, coverage, trying to tweak the machine, get it to do things. If you're having trouble getting, for example,
The last one, we got some really interesting techniques. Like, I don't know if you want to talk about the technique we learned about this week.
I'll get to that.
Yeah.
The one, insane. Yeah, I'll get to that because it has to do with design. So I want to go into that one a little bit of detail. But for an example of what we do talk about are things that, like, okay, I had a job. I tell production our blue foil is expired. You know what happens when blue foil expires. It doesn't adhere well. It kind of flakes. It gets that splotchy, flaky look. So I said, any blue foil jobs that are coming down, we need to order some fresh foil. Let me know when that happens. They didn't. So we have a job yesterday that had to be done today. I mean, we're talking bound, out the door, and delivered to the customer today. High-end stuff, can't look bad. And all I have is expired foil. What am I supposed to do? They're like, Matt, fix it. I'm like, the foil is expired. It won't work. They're like, it has to be done tomorrow. Do what has to be done. And so I tried a couple things, run the varnish, and it's uncoated stock, by the way. So I'm running the varnish, running more varnish, and then putting the foil on the varnish, and it just looks terrible. It looks all splotchy. This is what I ended up with.
That looks phenomenal. What'd you do?
Looks perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's expired foil?
That's expired foil. It's expired foil, and it passes the tape test. Does everyone here know what the tape test is?
Yeah.
Yep. Take a piece of Scotch 810 clear cellophane tape, stick it on there and rip it off. And that way you know whether the foil is adhered or not. If the foil comes off with the tape, you're in trouble. Little tiny bits of it did. But in general, this is what I ended up with. So what I had to do, and since we were going to throw the foil away anyway, was varnish with foil and then run it through again, varnish with foil, in hopes that where it shows through and it didn't exactly adhere in a solid way, what was underneath would fill in the gap and make it look better.
No kidding. You did 2 hits of foil on the expired
did.
foil, and you got the good quality.
I did 2 hits of foil.
Now, I don't know if it's just me, and I think the Napco people are seeing it too. Did you bring it in by a pixel so it gives you kind of that beveled edge? It almost looks like there's a little bevel on the edge there.
Nope.
Interesting.
That's because it's 73 microns of varnish.
Yeah.
But it's on uncoated stock. So I'm printing that on top of a solid color. There's black foil on there, by the way.
Oh, it's black foil.
That's black foil. It's the blue foil that was expired. The black foil was fresh, and it adhered perfectly because you can see it on the logo there.
Yeah.
It's very fine serif type.
We had a similar issue where they were like, oh, we need this now. And I was like, well, all 6 rolls of silver holographic foil are expired because you guys didn't use them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, so.
This was 4 years old.
No way.
4 years old foil, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old that one stuff was. From when we got it, it was 2 years old. So, but we ended up putting a UV coat on top of it so that it wouldn't flake off and kind of seal it down as much as possible.
Mhm.
It kind of work. So we were like, okay, if it works for this, that's fine. And then no one else is allowed to have it.
Exactly.
That's great. That's something I like
Very
about these
cool.
meetings is these little things just kind of bubble up throughout the conversation. We're like, oh, maybe I can try that. Because what happens is you do get in a bind. You do get in, you hit a dead end and you're like, well, now what do I do? I don't know. We talked about Adam in, what's the name of his outfit? What's the name of his company? Uh,
Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince. Yeah, and he's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's got a 3DL, an MGI 3DL, which is the B2 sheet, is it not? So it's the wider
Yep.
version of the 3DL, but it has the more of the insides of the Evo. So it uses a different varnish than what I'm using. So that's the other thing that designers will eventually learn is that different machines use varnishes, they coat the paper differently, they act differently. Maybe eventually you get to the point, I consider you expert if you can design a file and put in your notes that this was designed for the 3DS. If it's going to run on an Evo or a 3DL, we need to make adjustments. That's next level because you know the difference between the machines and how they operate. But if anyone else gets to that level, look me up because we have a lot to talk about. So he was doing, Adam had a rough start and he got the MGI and it replaced the Scodix. So he was used to the way that the Scodix operated and the adjustments and the way the files had to be prepared. And it took him about a year of experimenting and then another year of hard production for him to really get it. By his third year of using that machine, which I think he's in his third year of using it now, he is like beyond all wild expectations.
He just did 1 million pages this year.
1 million pages.
Yeah, he ran 1 million pages. Yeah.
On a,
And he's
on a
doing like
V2.
high-end college recruitment stuff. So all this stuff for Deion Sanders and Nike to recruit the high-end athletes, especially now there's a lot of that NIL money coming in. He's doing a lot of work on that stuff. Really cool stuff for like Jordan Brand, like really high-end. I wish he was on this meeting.
Yeah, but he's busy.
Yeah.
And he has a lot to do. So every time we get him on a meeting, we're like,
Yeah.
yes, we scored at him. So
Yeah.
he discovered something kind of by accident. So I thought I would pass it on because I thought, well, I have the capability of doing this and I'd love to give it a try. I have yet to try it. But we all talk about cast and cure. And a lot of people they don't really know what cast and cure is, how it works. The whole holographic effect is built into a holographic foil, basically. So it's the same technology, it's the same base technology, it's just how it's applied to the paper. So one thing that he came up with is he lays down the foil, any color, can be red, can be blue, can be gold, can be silver. Really not silver, more of a color. And then he puts another layer of a clear holographic foil on top of it.
It's bananas. Guys, the effect of having any foil, now a holographic foil, is
any foil.
It's insane.
Any color.
Yeah.
So you could, I don't know that you'd want to put holographic on top of holographic. It might actually cancel out some of the effects, but if you want to experiment and try it, go right ahead. This is the foil. It's clear holographic. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can see this is a used, where I used it on a holiday card. And it just catches, the light in here isn't that good, but it does catch it just enough. Now imagine putting that on top of red foil, or blue foil, or green foil, or copper.
Yeah, I've never seen an effect like it's probably the coolest effect I've seen in digital embellishment to date.
Because it's shiny, but it's satin. It's colorful, but the color comes through from the underneath. I mean, it's really hard to describe what it does.
Yeah.
And I think depending on all of the variable factors involved, the stock that you're putting it on, the amount of curing you use, et cetera, the amount of varnish you use underneath, you're going to end up with a bunch of different effects. And if you add a texture underneath it, if you put a textured layer of varnish instead of just a smooth coat, imagine what that's going to do. Put wavy lines underneath it, put speckled dots.
Yeah.
Wow. the possibilities are endless.
So we learned that on Tuesday or Wednesday. Did you get to play with that yet, Matt? Did you do any experiments, or you've been too busy running work?
No, I've been too stuck in other design work for actual paying customers, so I haven't had time to sit down and experiment with all that. But it's really, I look forward to, like, when I have a slow day, I'll be able to sit down and just draw up that's the beauty of digital, right? I mean, you can just go make a file, send it to the machine, modify it on the fly, and then print something out, and if you don't like it, do something different, just like that. It's really easy.
Yeah, post it to the forum when you get a chance. If you do any of that work, we'd love to see it. And then also, I think anybody else here that's running the machine, if you have a chance to do a clear holographic on top of a metallized foil, let's kind of share this new effect and get the word out there of what's possible.
Yeah, the only thing I've used this foil for is to put it on top of a solid color that's printed, not on top of foil, but on top of a printed piece. And it really adds a very interesting sheen to it. It catches your eye, and then you have to take a double take because you're like, oh, what's that? How did that happen? What makes that work? So even just putting it on a solid color is pretty impressive, but I can't imagine what it's going to do on top of a shiny foil.
And can you share where you got that foil from?
This foil, let's see, I peeled the label off.
And Napco, are you guys playing at all with clear foils?
Yeah, we have like an opaque one, just like a clear holographic that we use, and I've used it on top of a red to make it a red holographic as well. That's why I was like, oh, I've done that.
Oh, so you've done that. What was the reaction from the client when you did that?
Well, it was a reaction from Rob because we were just doing a little promotion piece just to see what we could do real quick, and I did it by accident, and that's how I figured it out.
That's what happened to Adam. He goes, I didn't realize he did it by accident too.
Yeah. He was making a test sheet with something that already had foil on it, and then he just grabbed the sheet to shove it through. That's what he does to test adhesion. He'll just set the machine in white mode and just grab any old sheet that fits the right document size and sends it through the machine, just lets it do its thing, doesn't worry about registration. And he's like, whoa, holy crap,
I just forgot to turn off my iFoil, and I was like, whoops, and I was like, well, that was cool.
I've done that with other jobs where they just order varnish and varnish only, and then I forget and leave the iFoil on, and where there's just supposed to be varnish, it all comes out foil. And we'll actually present that to the customer as an option. They're like, well, you could do this. Never thought of that, did you?
I do that too when I mess up and it looks real good. I'll be like, just send this with the samples. I'll be like, we've already got it.
Just slip it in there and see what they say.
Yeah, just see what they say. Be like, oh, we did it anyway.
That's cool. That's awesome. I'm sure Color Logic, I'm sure with Mark, you've run into happy accidents as well, no? Oh, I think he tried to unmute himself and accidentally hung up.
No. We have, in fact, first time what's available in foil is unbelievable. That's, knows more about than we ever will. But I love happy accidents.
Yeah, for sure. That's where you get the good stuff.
Yeah. So, where does that leave us? I was going to talk about some other things as far as design aspects go. Color combinations, things that work, things that don't work, and how do you know in advance as a designer whether or not it will work? And sometimes you don't. So one example that I did was a holiday card where I did the speckled confetti silver holographic foil and the varnish on the AI design. And so the whole thing was designed in AI. And then I was going to put a red star on top of the tree. And I thought, well, because a red star looks good on top of a tree, right? You can't go wrong with that. It's going to work. But it didn't. It looked terrible. I ran the test sheet and it came off the machine and it looked dull and brassy compared to all of these super bright colors. So I ended up using the pink instead of the red. The red just didn't work with these bright, primary, vivid, almost fluorescent colors. These are off the iridescent. So they're very bright colors, and it seems to be amplified optically by the foil. It just really sets that off. And then to put that brassy red on it, it just didn't work. At least on the fly with me as an operator, I could come up with a backup plan, say, oh, well, I have this other foil, maybe that will work. Because I thought, well, maybe it needs to be blue, maybe it needs to be green, but there was already so much blue and so much green that it was just going to be overkill. And there was already silver, and gold wouldn't have worked either because it has that same kind of brassy base that the red does.
Mm.
So as a designer, you might also offer a backup plan if you're not sure in your specs for your design, say possible red foil on the star. If you dislike that, maybe pink will work with these bright colors. It just might be helpful to think things ahead a little bit like that, because if you don't make those notes and it gets to the machine, they're just going to run the whole job that way.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing's going to be done, and then you'll see it in finishing, or as the samples are going in the job jacket, and you're going to be like, that doesn't look good. That's not what I thought it was going to be. And that's what we're sending out to the customer now.
That's a good point. Do you guys, let's ask the team, do you guys run into foil, let's say you're doing 2-pass foil or 3-pass foil, foil color combinations that typically don't go well together that you stay away from, or is that not something that's really jumped out to you guys yet? Oh, hey, Brian, welcome.
I was just gonna say, I know we just go for it when it comes to color combinations, because like sometimes it works against their print and sometimes it doesn't. Like we've tried copper against blue and it didn't work, even though you would think it would, kind of thing. So it's like it's just play with it all the time. So
Interesting.
Yeah, that was the separation between the shiny and the background is always difficult sometimes, and that's where we had the coverage in our last meeting about using the drop shadows to help separate, especially if it's something you have to read. It's like text versus a graphic. Instead of a star, now you've got a word, you've got a headline. And we see a lot of our customers do that too. They put this big foil headline, and then it's against a dark or medium background, and it just doesn't have enough separation for the eye to figure it out. So your brain has to work extra hard to try and read it. And some people aren't going to try. They're just going to like not even look at it.
So I think a lot of people weren't in that meeting, but I think it's important just from a design perspective, maybe to remind exactly how you create that separation when you have just pure foil onto a color. How do you really make it stand out using that drop shadow? Like, what are your best practices for you?
It really depends on the design, and that's where the designer's intuition has to come into play.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a hard drop shadow. It depends on your style. Like if it's almost a comic style, something that's really punchy and progressive, you use just a hard edge. Sometimes I'll put a whole outline on it and then choke the foil in a little bit so that it has that border all the way around it, whether it's white or black or a color in between that's complementary. And then other times I use a big soft drop shadow that's just floating in the background somewhere, and then put that foil right there, and then you've got the drop shadow behind it, and then you've got the design around it. It helps the eye to create that type of a separation.
Okay, so you print the drop shadow and you just foil on top of it to give it that 3D effect. And it does look really good. I hadn't thought about that until you brought that up in the last meeting, but it does look good. For sure.
Yeah, it could be confusing for the operator to get those sheets delivered to them at the press because they see this drop shadow, but there's no type there. So obviously you're doing a blind foiling in that spot. Always be sure to print out a guide or something for them and how it registers against that drop shadow. And sometimes I'll actually print the text there anyway in like if I'm putting silver foil there, I'll use a 70% black. So it's this gray that's just right where that foil is going to drop right on top of it and register exactly to it. And as long as you can hold your registration, it's going to look fantastic. Other times I completely remove the text and just have the drop shadow floating there. But if it's a hard edge where that shadow hits where that type is supposed to be, that can be even harder to register, because if you don't register that, it really looks like something went wrong, versus if you printed the type, it like 70% to black to put the foil on, the silver foil over it, then if it's slightly misregistered, you don't notice it as much.
Yeah. Ryan, have you played at all with drop shadows on foil or not yet?
No, I haven't done that with foil yet. It's funny this subject's come up because I'm designing something with it right now, but we actually haven't done it yet.
Right.
Because Matt, I was running into a similar thing where like we had looked at a piece and it was funny because the contrast between like a gold and the copper, like to the eye, they were next to each other and we were like, it doesn't really do much, right? It just kind of washed everything out.
They're
And
too
so like
similar.
it got me, they're too similar. And so this new piece I'm designing right now, it was a very similar thing where I was dropping, I think I was putting gold over a lighter area, and I was like, the spot color I chose to use just was like happenstance, was very similar to the background, and so obviously your eyes can't see it. I'm like, well, what if there was a shadow there? And so I'm like doing this like big dispersed shadow that almost is invisible to the eye, but it's going to just bring up the gold.
It's the same idea that in any layout that I do, if I'm putting a body of text, like a paragraph, over a photograph or a background that's too complex, I will put an outer glow on that text from a sampled pixel of color from within that photograph. And I'm going to choose the color, like if it's green grass, I'm going to choose the medium color of green. I'll actually go in and pick a pixel and make it that color, and then you put that outer glow on that white text, and it creates, it's really weird what it does. You can't really see the glow because you multiply it with the background, but it just creates this bed for that text to lay on, and it's so much easier to read.
Yeah.
So it's the same process, same idea with the drop shadow.
Oh, fantastic. By the way, Ryan and I think the team from NAPCO, congratulations on your recent wins at the FSCA. You guys all both brought home some nice awards, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you. I should have brought some of those boxes in, but I didn't think twice about it. Yeah, they look pretty sick. And the fun one is if you look at the candy one, I know that
Yeah.
one got some. All of those, our artists had sent over all of the little candy boxes and forgot to put any embellishments on any of the candy on each little box. So I literally got like full reign to just kind of like what
Go buck wild.
yeah. Just
That's awesome.
we forgot it. So that was fun.
Awesome. Very cool.
And I know he's not on camera, but Quam's here too.
Oh yes,
you know,
Quam also won. Yes, congratulations to both of you guys for sure. Very very proud of you guys. So very good. Ryan, Matt, what else? I mean, do you have something else you wanted to bring up, or do we want to start opening up conversation to the people here and getting a good feel for what they want to know from a design standpoint?
Well, I want to do both actually, but I
Yeah.
think it might be better because this is like the second meeting that we've put out there that is an open link on
Right.
Zoom. Like we mentioned earlier, the operator meetup is quarantined into the JETforce web interface, and because you have to have a machine to do that. But designers, we want all designers to know this technology, whether they have an MGI or not, because they may end up designing for one.
Right.
And then when that time comes, they'll be like, oh, I know how to do that. So that makes them definitely a more valuable employee at that point.
Right.
So that's why we're opening this up. So I would be more open to discuss. I have one that I would like to submit on the list of what we want to start working on from this point forward as a group. Is it creating masks in Photoshop? Is it creating the proper PDF stack? Is it how does one type of machine differentiate from another type of machine? To try to get us to be a little more well-rounded on who we are as a designer. Basically, as far as I see, it's an extension of spot color technology. but it's very specific to what we do here with the foil and varnish embellishment. So we have to adapt for that. But I mean, do we take a step back and go back into more 101 courses on spot color and the theory and use behind that? For example, when you make masks and you've got all the designs in the background, some of those are repeating patterns, and some of them, like on the headphones, do you think you're going to go into Illustrator and draw all those lines? Heck no.
Right.
You know, look at the boom box and how the varnish lays on the edges of the boom box. I'm not going to go into Illustrator and draw all that. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
The little cassette tape, it's got its own elements.
So let's hear from the group. What do you guys want to talk about? What do you think would augment your skills? Where do you think that we should share knowledge around? What are you the most interested in?
Sorry, Gina's scooting over here because I was like, okay, I've got all of you here today. Well, I have all of you here. We have this beautiful piece of artwork, right?
Wow.
But it's so low resolution, and they wanted like embellishments and all this stuff on it. And I'm like, any tips on how to work with really low resolution print? Because it's, I mean,
Wait.
see where like the green is splotchy. I don't know if the camera's picking it up.
Yeah, you've got a couple of good things and a couple of bad things going on there. As far as, you know, essentially it takes some effort to clean that up. It would be really helpful to clean that up, even if you have to oversample it, because I'm assuming that you had a really small image and then you blew it up to that size, right?
Yeah, the customer picked it out and was very adamant about, no, this image, no, I want it this size. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
What about AI upscaling? Is that something that we can use?
I wanted to see if anyone knew a good AI could throw it into, or use the Photoshop.
For sure, Matt will tell you all about AI upscaling.
Yeah, the majority of what I do on a daily basis is I get stuff from customers that is 100% unusable. I swear, 100% unusable.
Yep.
It's pixelated, it's compressed. You can see the JPEG, the little squares that, you know what a JPEG is, right? It's not an image. It's not a copy of the image. It's not pixels. Yeah. It's a bunch of squares with fills applied to the inside of the square. And depending on the amount of the compression that you use determines how big those squares are. So the more compression you use, the bigger those squares get, and then it tends to look really blocky. You can actually see in like gradient backgrounds where that you can see where the squares butt up against each other, because it has to break it up into blocks and then apply a fill, like a gradient mesh, to the inside of that as a fill. And that's how it ends up being such a small file size. But it's at a cost. It's always at a cost. So I have to take that garbage, and I'm talking about stuff that I'm putting on a wall.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you do a lot of wide format stuff, yeah.
I do all this wide format design. We do these installations all over the place, as well as van wraps and car wraps, and they give you the worst artwork. So one of the biggest things that I've been getting really good at is taking this garbage art and turning it into something completely stellar. Like even a
You're killing us, Matt. What are you doing?
We're
all in the other seat. What are you doing?
It's a combination of everything, and it depends on what your outcome needs to be. There's no hard and fast rule. You have to make, there's a series of decisions you have to make, and then if that didn't work, you back up and go a different direction. It's not, there's not a formula that you can use, but you're using, you know, traditional upscaling and the different types of sampling types in Photoshop, whether it's nearest neighbor, bilinear, preserve details, remove noise. You know, you've got a million. You've got the neural filters in Photoshop that you can work with for photo restoration. You've got upscaling technology that uses AI, such as Gigapixel.
That's a good
and
one.
and that is my favorite. That is like the Cadillac of them all, is Gigapixel.
Yeah, Gigapixel's a good one, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Adobe has one now built into their AI engine. Have you played with the Firefly stuff yet, or no?
I have.
Yeah,
Um,
for upscaling. I mean, is it any good?
no,
No. Okay.
no. And the weird thing is, like the stuff I've been working on all week for it's a wall timeline for a church, and I'm dealing with photographs
Yeah.
from the 1970s that were taken on like 110 cameras, which were very small negatives, and they were really grainy, and they were usually quick and dirty processing because, you know, my background is photographic production technology, and I used to run all these photo labs, so I know how that crap works. You know, it was you process a 110 camera film, and it was just quick and dirty, and there were spots and grain, and you just had to get it done and get it out. It was never going to look good.
So
So
I'm putting the link in just for you guys for Gigapixel if you want to give it a shot. It's going to allow you. I think there's a free version too. So if you want to test it out, you can.
yeah, the free version's probably going to have a watermark, but
Yeah.
I think, well, I need to go and upscale this first, and then I'm going to drop it into Photoshop and use the neural filters for photo restoration. But then that looks like crap. And like, well, let me drop it into Photoshop neural filters for photo restoration first, and then put it through Gigapixel.
Right.
And then once you're in Gigapixel, you have all these different settings you can change to. So it can take you a while to tweak it because something's going to suffer and something's going to shine, and not all of it's going to be great, but you have to discern where you're going to find that balance.
Yeah, and it's only $100. So you buy Gigapixel for $100 and you have it for lifetime.
Yeah, but whatever you do, when you think you're done with your file, get in there and look at it, because weird things can happen. You've got color bleed, color shifts.
Interesting.
You can gain too much detail in areas, lose too much detail in others. You really have to be discerning on what you've done. And 9 times out of 10, I still have to take it into Photoshop and techniques of clone stamping and whatever I can do to, you know, replace eyes or fix a mouth or, you know, whatever I need to do to make it look good. Sometimes it makes like skin under your neck look kind of crunchy. So you need to go in and paint that smoother. You've got some post-production issues you've got to go through as well, depending on how good it has to be. What you're working on there, though, it just looks like something that they grabbed off the internet. Maybe they stole the art. I'm assuming, you know, so it's going to be a really small image. I'd be curious if you want to email that to me and tell honestly, because I love a good challenge. She's laughing.
There you
now.
go. You get some. You got a challenge accepted.
I'd love to be able to see what I can do with it. And some things cannot be fixed. I'll be honest about that too. You cannot fix them.
That's a good point. Very good. Good. Thank you very much for bringing that point up. So give Gigapixel a shot and give the old Matt Redbear a shot too. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your phone call,
Sorry.
but yeah, I'll send that to you. 100%.
Very cool. What else? What other design challenges do you guys run into that you wish you had a magic wand for? Anything jump out to anybody? Whether no?
Is anyone creating these masks? You know, like that. I mean, it's that. It's look at the truck. It has its own. Everything's following the lines and details. Look at the tree. There's a texture on the tree that is specific to the tree.
Yeah,
I was trying.
Okay, you want to walk me through your technique now? You know.
Yeah, walk us through your technique.
I was trying to find one because they like it when I do it to water. This was another one that was really kind of.
That's cool.
Yeah, I saw you do that one on the last meeting, and I actually ended up using that like topography on a topography.
Yeah, this is specific to the artwork that it's overlaying. It was generated from that artwork. And I think the reason I'm bringing it up, it's the same thing we did on our brochure on the laptop. It has that same treatment. You can see it's around the edges. I didn't draw that.
So how'd you do that, Matt? What's your process?
Well, we don't have enough time to go over that because that would be
That's next week.
that's another entire meeting. This was another one that I thought was interesting. Look at the playing cards.
That's cool. That's a big market.
Look at the
Cards.
postmark. Look at the postcard.
Yeah. Is that varnish on top of foil that you did there too?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Tiny speckles. Trying to see the texture on the postcard itself. It's really fine, but it's supposed to be subtle. It's just supposed to give it that weathered look.
Right.
And that's what it ended up doing.
So I'm curious, do you guys have any techniques that you recommend? Ryan, I know that you're doing some really cool work. Any techniques that you figured out that works well for designing?
That's a good question. One thing that I've been playing with, and I think came out really nice. Quan and we kind of tag teamed this one on the snake card that we did. We used some of the filters. So this was an Illustrator. We used some of the artistic filters. Played around with it for a minute, but I want to say we ended up with either photocopy or stamp or something like that. We played with some of those parameters. And then from there, once we had it filtered to those artistic filters, we did a trace on it. And then we used that to create kind of some generalized outlines and textures. And then we overlaid a second layer of what did we do? We did like a reticulated type texture on top of that. So we had like a 30% down at the bottom layer, and then on top of that we did like 100% with our textures. And so now we have this really nice kind of scaly outline of all the scales, and then a nice texture on top.
Very cool.
Right on.
Cool.
Thanks for explaining that, Ryan. I was gonna get to it, but my daughter is on my lap here. She won't let me do anything.
Oh, she's so cute.
Designer.
Oh man, that was dark.
Oh, look at her go. So did you work on that file too, Kwam?
Yeah, Ryan and I collaborated on that file. I'm always a fan of the more organic patterns and sort of things. So filters are kind of my go-to to help me envision what it could look like, and then clean it up a little bit. So and it came out pretty well.
Yeah, it came out great. Yeah.
So the filters that you mentioned are the old school. Those have
been. We had the NAPCO team was about to say something. Hold on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as far as design goes, if we have like a solid black and then do like a matte film over it, and then just doing a little UV to give that like extra black come through, like you did with your red satin matte poly, it looked like, or something. That just doing something like that is real simple and easy, and it doesn't require a whole lot of effort. I don't know.
You're right. That's a good point. Very good point. All right. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry, I interrupted you because I saw they had something to say. So
Ryan's on it because you mentioned the photocopy and the filters that you're using in Photoshop, and those are often overlooked because they've been there forever. They've been there since version 3 or 4 of Photoshop, maybe 5. Been a long time, and nobody tends to even look at that stuff anymore. But it's really, really valuable when it comes to creating areas on your print to decide where the varnish goes. And I used all of that, on this piece for the headphones, the everything. I didn't draw any of that in Illustrator. That would have been the first thought that you would think to do. But no, I just went in Photoshop, dialed up dropped the image in, sampled it to the level that I needed it to, because you usually have to work super high res, and then work your magic and then downsample it and apply the mask to whatever you're doing in InDesign or Illustrator, wherever you're building your file. You have to build your file somewhere. So yeah, it's fun to go back into all those old things and use them as new things. And that's what I was proposing actually is doing in one of our meetings for the future, if not the next one, to actually take a file, just pick something and turn it into an image map that turns into a mask that you would use to apply varnish to the print.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. And maybe we can all talk about how we would do it differently while you're doing it live. I think that might be an
Yeah.
interesting exercise for us to do as a group.
And one thing that's really interesting about it to me is the technicality of it, because you want to work within a specific resolution range. So you need a computer that can handle that. And otherwise, the results that you get, say if you're working at 300 DPI versus 1200 DPI, the real results that you get are two completely different things, because the filters will operate differently in each one of those resolution environments.
So who gets to pick the file for next time? Is it going to be a live challenge? Is it something where we send you oh, there we go. Maybe we do that. There it is. There it is. I think we found our file. That's a beautiful file, by the way. Very cool. All right, we'll do that
It's weird. It's a little creepy, actually.
I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. All right.
Well, that's
Very
about all the
cool.
time we have.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions before we go, or anything that that you like or you don't like, or how can we get better to grow the community of designers? Any ideas? And again, remember, this is an open meeting, so if those of you who are working with jet varnish, or those of you who are working with an embellishment press, please invite your customers to this meeting too, so we could teach them how to best design for your machines as well. So again, this is a free resource. We'd like to thank our sponsors, MGI, for supporting this event and ongoing community training for the designers.
And if
anybody have any questions?
If you have a specific case, like the one you're working on over there, if you're working on a specific case that you want input on, bring it to the meeting.
Right.
I got a question if you don't mind. I got a question.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So Matt, you mentioned a test sheet. My question is, we always look at this from our side too, is what can you print out to sort of educate the designers what's possible? Do you have like a test sheet that you send out to designers to show them, okay, these are some techniques we've done, or is there something like that to sort of get their ideas thinking, or is it just samples?
Usually I try to get some kind of idea from them first, or I try to look at the piece that they're trying to design first and then go from there, because there's so many different directions you can go. You could sit there and talk about it till you're blue in the face, but you might not come up with a solution. So if you can narrow it down, like the size, the substrate, the surface texture, there's certain ways you would design just based on the paper that you choose.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay. I'm from the process side. I like to take away as much guessing as possible for predictability.
Well, I know a lot of printers out there have like a design book. Oh, well, there it is right there. That's exactly what I had in mind. Why don't you walk us through what you're showing us?
Very nice.
Oh, I think you're on mute.
Smile, sorry.
There we go.
We made this in a bunch of different foils and a bunch of different, like we did varnish levels and all that, just so we could send the customer a little something that says, here's our like pre-made varnish stuff and patterns and all this, and if you want any of these, we have them, and these are the type of like levels and like sculpted varnishes that we can do and all that. So I don't know, it was very fun making this, and then we were just trying different PMS colors and gave them the Pantone colors and all that with it.
Nice. Okay. I look at it from, you got all the capability in these machines, so how do you get designers excited about it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and teach them limitations, right? If somebody's going to send you like a 3-point font they want in foil, you're going to look at them and you're like, come on, man, why would you do this to me?
Yeah, why
So
would you make me try and read that?
Yeah, so like, so there's like a difference between real fine lines in here, little dots, and also like whole little camouflage filled in areas. This is our
Yeah.
sparkly foil, sorry.
I like it.
Nice.
Some of this
Okay.
stuff.
That looks so good.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is for like the sales team too. When Joe goes out, he can grab this. Or I did a job fair next door, and I took it with me. And the kids loved looking at these. I
Yeah.
put out all the good packaging, but on this too, it shows like the KM1 with the MGI, so we can get work for both of those. So they
Very
work
cool.
together.
Nice.
Right.
Thank you.
Very nice. Well, yeah, I think customer education is probably the biggest job that we have to continue as a team, as a group, as a community, is to keep educating all the designers and brands of what's possible with this new technology. So it's ongoing. We'll never be there, but I think we're making some good steps, and little by little, people are understanding how to design for this technology better.
So I guess the next meeting we'll work on NAPCO.
Oh, we have a question. Tony,
Yeah.
do you have a question for us?
Yes, please. Sorry, Kevin. I don't want to interrupt you. Just a short explanation about myself. So I'm Tony. I'm a general manager at MGI. So it was so interesting for me to listen about how our customers utilize our equipment. So first of all, thank you from all MGI employees about your choice to decide to utilize the MGI equipment first. It was so interesting, and I was, frankly speaking, surprised about what I saw today. And now it's, of course, I will share it with the team here in Paris in order to understand how, of course, we can support you and how we can, of course, help you, because I understand that how design, how it's difficult for you, of course, to translate to the machine your know-how, and this is, but in the same time, frankly speaking, you are like an artist, because I'm so surprised about what you are able to do with the equipment. And please, thank you a lot, Matthew, about what you explained. But if you can, of course, send some samples here to MGI headquarters, I will appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
Because frankly speaking, the creativity is so important. I understood that sometimes you are able to do it by accident, but even if it's by accident, at the end, the result it's so important. So, and as you know, frankly speaking, sometimes we put perhaps a lot of emphasis about how to operate on the equipment itself. But I understood also that we have to take into consideration more about also how to help the designer, of course, to continue to have this type of creativity. So thank you a lot to be MGI customers first, and thank you for Tactiful and for Matthew about this, I want to say, organization and animation of the meeting.
Of course. Thank you very much, Tony, for your support. Maybe we put together a JETforce awards program where we do best in categories. And would you guys be down for that? Or you think it's a good idea?
It's a very good idea.
I would be very curious if I could even beat Matt at anything.
Oh, I don't know if
you might.
Little competition.
We'll put Matt. Well, we could put him in competition. We could put him as a judge, or we could put him as competition.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Put me as both, and then I can just vote for myself.
Nice. Well, guys, listen, as usual, you guys have been amazing. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I think we're going to just go ahead and keep the designer meetings open to everybody. Please invite your customers to come join and have conversations with us and discover. And if you have things that you want us to cover next meeting, let us know. Drop us a comment or an email, and we'll work on it for you, so that next month around this time we'll try to hit that subject. And I think next month's subject has been, I guess, locked in. We're going to take that downscaled sample, and we're going to do a live design for it. And maybe at the end we send out the files and we see who did best and how it came out on all of your machines. Could be fun. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I'll be posting a recording of this on the JETforce, as well as a brief review of everything. So we'll see you guys soon. And thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Have,
Bye.
have happy little accidents. There you go.
Happy little accidents for everybody.
Nice Bob.
Nice little Bob Ross. That's so cool. I love that.